Good morning. It is Saturday, September 11th, 2021, and this is Eric Arnold, sometimes known as the Big E, here in my sports barn, now doubling as the politics barn. And we're here to bring you 12 college football plays, free college football plays for this Saturday, and we'll get to them in a moment. I think we have to talk about the 20th anniversary of 9/11, which, it's a pretty big deal here. And where we're at. In my last video, I pointed out that Joe Biden has now declared war on the American people with his vaccination mandates. It's nothing short of a declaration of war. It's the worst thing I've seen in my lifetime. The worst thing I've seen an American government do to its own people. So we'll get to that shortly. But 9/11, what does it mean to me? I mean, what do I think it means to the country? At the time, it was, some of you younger people out there, if there are any, you might not remember it that well. For us older people, it was kind of, it was probably the worst thing that ever happened to us. Our lives have been pretty tranquil. The Vietnam was over. You had the Iranian hostage crisis. That was annoying. You had the Cold War with Russia. But that wasn't, nothing really bad happened. In other words, something bad was always threatened to happen. Oh, they might nuke us. Look out. But they never did. There was never any open shooting between American and Soviet forces. And then they just went away, which really was kind of cool. It was like, this is awesome. We don't have to worry about dying in our sleep from some, nuclear attack. This is great. So everything was pretty good in my lifetime up until, September 11th, 2001. And that's when, we were attacked by the Islamists. And I think the lesson that I have learned, in the 20 years that have succeeded or after 9/11 is, unfortunately, I think that the worst threats that face the American people are not external threats, they're internal threats. 9/11 was used by the people in power in this country, by the elites, the corporations, what have you, to just increase their own power. They just used that as an excuse to, hey, let's have some more war, and of course we were all ready to kick some ass. Everybody was. Fucking hey, let's get these motherfuckers. But of course, that was all fun and such, and I'm sure we did kill a number of Islamists. But then, of course, that was not entirely what was sold to us. In other words, we went over to Iraq to kill Islamists that were ready to kill us, right? Because they had weapons of mass destruction. We had to go get them. We had to go get them. Otherwise, we'd have a 9/11 times 1,000. We can't afford that. We got to go over there and get these guys. And it was all a lie. There were no weapons of mass destruction. And we just accepted it. It was just kind of like, well, fuck them. They were Islamists, It felt good to go over there anyway, kick their asses. But it was all a lie, So basically my lesson is that, anything bad that happens in this country, the people in power are just going to use it to increase their power. And we've just been sitting and taking it as the people. It's like, oh, okay. You want me to take my shoes off at the airport forever? Okay. Take my belt off too? Okay. I have the spy agency here, the NSA. They're listening in on my phone calls. Oh, okay. Even though they lied and said they weren't. And then, of course, one of their insiders outed them and said, oh, yeah, we're doing that. Fuck it. I'm not that upset about that. I mean, what do I say on the phone that could get me in trouble, So this sort of thing is, we've just been handing over little pieces of our privacy, little pieces of our rights over and over and over again for 20 years. And the place we're at now is pretty dark and bad. This is not a good place we're in right now. I've been given Thursday's declaration of war some thought. And, what I need from my friends, I need my Democrat friends to think about this and think about what's happening. Well, Republican friends too. I mean, it is possible that my Republican friends could be out there too going, yeah, fuck these unvaccinated people, let's get them. Let's pound those bastards, because this would all be over by now and I could watch my football game without having to worry about the quarterback having COVID if it wasn't for these unvaccinated bastards. So let's get them. So it could be Republicans saying that as well. I just said Democrats just because, the Republican governors rushed out and condemned this for the tyranny that it is. Most of them. Some of the squishy ones didn't. But the Democrats were all silent. I have noted, I may have missed it, but I haven't seen a whole lot of Democrats running forth to the microphone saying, hooray for tyranny. So that leads me to believe that perhaps they're, just as looking at this like we are going, this is kind of new and scary, isn't it? So that's what I'm hoping. I don't want to, you're never going to convince anybody to see your side of the argument by just calling them stupid and idiots and anything like that. So, I don't think that if you have a different viewpoint that you're an idiot. I want you to see our viewpoint on this. I want you to consider changing your viewpoint, or at least softening it, to see what we're talking about. Because, as I keep saying, this is it. This is the first time in my lifetime that the American government has taken a group of people and said, we're going to force you to do this. The last time I could think of that happening was the civil rights things, for lack of a better word. Forcing African Americans to sit in the back of the bus, forcing them not to vote, forcing them to use different hotel rooms and water fountains and all the other bullshit from the Jim Crow era. That sticks in my mind. Forcing the Japanese into internment camps during World War II. There you have that. I had another example and it slipped my mind. But all this was wrong. All of this was wrong. But it happened. And here's something else is happening. We're forcing these unvaccinated people under the penalty of starvation, losing your livelihood, to get this vaccination that I'm not even sure why. It's like, well, wait a minute. If the thing works, why do they need to get it? Then the vaccinated people are already protected, right? Oh, wait, but you're saying that it's all confusing. That doesn't make any sense. I want my Democrat friends out there to just, I guess my lead argument to you, and I don't want to, this will be it, and then we'll get to college football. But my lead argument to you would be, let's just say everything's the same. Everything's the same today, except Donald Trump had won the election. And it was close. He could have won it. Let's say he did win it. And we got the same number of cases, and the graph looks the same, and all this other stuff. And there's still Mengele, Dr. Fauci, still there. Everything's all the same. And that was Donald Trump that gave that speech on Thursday. And he said, I'm losing patience with you unvaccinated people. And, well, this was what we're going to do. It's my job to protect you. And if you Democrat governors are not down with this, well, I'm just going to move you out of the way. If Trump had said that, you Democrats would be up in arms. There would be 24/7 coverage of this on CNN, MSNBC. Trump would be called Hitler. absolutely, you know it's true whether you want to admit it or not. That's what would be happening here. If Trump had done this, you would be outraged, and rightly so. I would be outraged. I am outraged. That's all I'm asking is just for a little intellectual honesty here from the people on the other side of the aisle. If Trump did this, you'd be outraged. So think about that. All right, now, on to the picks. Oh, well, it's kind of in chronological order here. And I don't have a hard and fast feel for any of these games. We're still, honestly, Thursday threw me for a loop, and I'm really not dialed in here sports-wise. And, you know, I sat there last night at the bar, and I just kind of stared off into space thinking about this. It's like, I cannot believe. I mean, I thought this would happen, but, you know, part of you says it won't happen. It won't happen. I mean, there's just not enough reason to do it. You know, there's no reason for them to declare war on these unvaccinated people. Just let it go. Just let the issue die, for God's sakes. But no, you know, they get mileage out of it. It's the most cynical, horrifying political bullshit I've ever seen in my life. But nevertheless, we like Virginia. I mean, I'm a little nervous by the number of points there. And this game, if you can believe it or not, is at 11 a.m. It's like 2 hours from now. But Illinois coming off two tough games, a tough conference game against Nebraska. That was a win. Then they played another tough game against San Antonio, of all people, which they lost. And that was a close game, but San Antonio ran a shitload of plays on Illinois. So I'm thinking Illinois might just be tired, just beat up. Virginia had a complete cupcake. I forget who it was, but total cupcake last week, which they crushed. So like I said, I'm a little nervous by the points, but we'll go ahead here with Virginia. Sure, I'm an alum of Ohio State. I mean, is it a homer pick? Who knows? I don't know. I know this. We've never lost to Oregon. They're playing at 9 a.m. local time, or 9 a.m. Pacific time. This game's like noon, another one of these ridiculous big noon games. Look, just because you put the word big in front of something doesn't mean it's good. You know, the big 6 a.m. game, I could do that. You know, oh, good. Let's all get up at 6 a.m. and play football. You know, it doesn't make it good. So, you know, big noon doesn't mean it's good. That's 9 a.m. local time for Oregon. I'm standing here in the barn and it's 8 a.m. local time. I don't feel like playing football. I just got out of bed. You know, it took me an hour just to get myself geared up to talk. I can't see Oregon putting forth their best effort here. And then, you know, I just think Ohio State is better. You know, that they're in that kind of, you know, range there where I like where these teams are, that have these double-digit favorites. In other words, I'm better than you are. So in the third quarter, Team A, which has a definite advantage over Team B, is likely to be up, say, 10 to 14 points in the third quarter. So Team B gets desperate. They need to catch up. They don't want to just play to cover the spread. They want to win the game. So now they're going to do some things they might not normally do, like throw every down or blitz every down. And whereas there could be big reward for that, it's probably low percentage. So maybe 1 out of 3, they hit the big play and catch up. But the other 2 out of 3, you know, something bad happens to them and then the lead just gets wider. So that's why we're kind of thinking this is definitely an Ohio State spot here. So we'll take Ohio State. This feels, I put 2 stars on this just because I feel good about this one, but I don't feel good about this one. It just feels like a trap. That South Carolina just crushed whoever the hell they played, whatever FCS team they played last weekend. East Carolina lost. struggled and lost to somebody. I think it was like 2 touchdowns. I just can't remember who they lost to. And I know who they didn't lose to, and it wasn't Alabama. It wasn't a very good team. So South Carolina is only a 2.5-point favorite here. I don't see it. It just seems like there's a bigger discrepancy between these two teams. I mean, South Carolina is an SEC team. Yeah, I know Vanderbilt just got waxed by 3 touchdowns by East Tennessee State. Still, I think the bottom of the SEC is still better. East Carolina is not the top of the American. They're mid to lower American. I just think that 2.5 points just does not feel like enough there. So we'll say South Carolina. Rutgers, Syracuse. A lot of people were impressed by Syracuse beating the MAC last week. I looked that up some years ago, and there's a little quirk, something Syracuse does, and I remember it. And I probably will now, on the fly, explain it incorrectly. But what I noted was Syracuse seems to every year have one tomato can, generally like out of the MAC, and that's what this was, even though Ohio is hardly a tomato can. And they beat them, and they usually beat them pretty bad. In other words, that seems to be Syracuse's game that they focus on, saying, we're going to have one good win out of conference to get our schedule so we're not like, going to be 3-8. We're going to get that one win out of conference. So, and they always get it. So I'm thinking that was their big win. This is a letdown, I think, for Syracuse somewhat. Rutgers, they might just be good. They might just be good. They scored 61 points last Saturday. That's a lot of points for Rutgers. And Temple, they're not that bad. I mean, they're bad, but they're not that bad. It's not like they just played Delaware State or something. So, I don't know. I think these are two programs going in different directions. I like Schiano. I think he would have been probably a bad fit at Tennessee. They hated him. They didn't want him. I'm reminded of a line from The Sopranos. There's a scene in one of The Sopranos episodes where Paulie Walnuts is talking about having to take it on the lam. That means the feds are breathing down your neck, so you got to go into hiding. And he said, you got to take it on the lam down to Elvis country. And Furio, he's Italian. He doesn't understand these Americanisms. He goes, what is that? What is Elvis country? And Paulie says, anywhere there's no Jews or Italians. So I'm thinking that's what the University of Tennessee is. There are no Jews or Italians down there, and Schiano's Italian, so he wouldn't have fit in down there. But he fits perfectly at Rutgers. He fits perfectly there. So this is the second time around there. He did a good job the first time and made him good. I think he's going to make him good again. A good Big Ten team is going to beat Syracuse every time out. Only laying 2 points will take Rutgers. Let's see. This is a model pick, TCU. California coming off a loss. TCU's got a chance to, go 2-0 here and kind of get off and run into a real good season. So we're just going to kind of say, all right, sure, TCU. Air Force, Navy, these teams just generally slug it out. Lots of ball control, hardly any big plays. They both are, it's a mirror image of each other. You know what I'm going to do. I know what you're going to do. We're both going to do it to each other. We're just going to try to do it just a little better than the other team. And it'll just be, the clock will expire before you know it, and the score will be 21-17 or something like that. Or less if they're fumbles. No one's going to throw the ball. There'll be no surprises. So, yeah, I think, under 40 here, that seems like not a hell of a lot to shoot at. But well, you watch. This is going to be a low-scoring game. There are always low-scoring games when these guys play each other. All right, what else? What else? Here's an off-the-map game, and I don't have a hell of a lot of rationale for this one. South Alabama versus Bowling Green. I guess I figure Bowling Green's a little beat up after playing Tennessee. South Alabama had a really nice win, crushing Southern Mississippi last Saturday. So that seems to be a lot of points for a team named South Alabama to be laying. But we'll take a shot here. The model says, go ahead, do it. I'm like, all right, we'll go ahead and do it. I like this game. This. I've had success in the past with these kind of games. Mercer, you're saying Mercer, 53.5 against Alabama. Mercer blew out whoever the hell they were playing last week. I know who they were playing. Some university called Point University. I had to look that up. It's in West Point, Georgia, which is, guess what, on the western edge of Georgia. So Mercer crushed them. Alabama plays Florida next week. So if you're worried about Saban coming out early in the week and saying, we're not focused and, I'm pissed about this, I don't know. It's like, that's what focus is. That's news, I guess, that Nick Saban's mad at his team. And that, of course, always makes the headlines of the Axis media conglomerate, ESPN, SEC. Nick Saban said words. This is, the headline on ESPN right under the latest lyrics from Black Lives Matter. So he came out and said words that he's mad at his team. But he's not going to take it out on Mercer. There's just no point to it. He's doing his work during the week, trying to get ready for Florida, and then he's going to take it easy on Saturday on Mercer. He's not going to go out there and just wax Mercer just to, what if somebody gets hurt? That's how he plays these games. He'll let Mercer hang around. He'll just have his guys. For one thing, he doesn't want to show anything to Florida. He's not going to show his formations and his best shit to Florida the week before he plays them. So it's going to be like a preseason game for Saban. And they'll, 48-0. So, that's a nice gentleman's shutout or something. That's another thing Saban does is there's no point in beating Mercer 80-0. He wants them to come back in 2-3 years, or a team like Mercer. He needs these guys on his schedule because that's how he does it. I need a cupcake here and there so I can tune up for our big tough SEC games. But if he's destroying these guys, then all of a sudden that check that these small schools get from the University of Alabama just doesn't look that exciting. It's like, well, that's great. No, I'd love to get that money, but it isn't worth it. We look like fools. This hurts our recruiting when we're trying to recruit in our little pond that we got beat 85-0 at Alabama. We look like a laughing stock. Well, so he knows not to do that to these guys. There's no point in it. It gets him nothing. So this will be a nice, easy, win for Alabama, but it's not going to be 78-0. There's just no point in that for Nick Saban. So I would take the points there with Mercer. Iowa State, big game. Here we go. Now we're getting to the good stuff, right? The, whatever the hell this is called, the Cyhawk Challenge or something. This is like the first time I think both teams have been in the top 10. This is usually a pretty good game as, in the last few years, both teams have been getting better. I mean, you go back into, your father or your father college football, 60s, 70s, both these teams were terrible. But then in the 80s, Iowa started getting good. 80s and 90s, Iowa was good. Iowa State's still terrible. Now in the last 20 years, Iowa State started to come up too. Now both teams are good. So I think the key to this game is just one team always wins, one team always loses. And the team that always wins, it's the Hawkeyes. What's the state called? Is it called the Cyclone State? No, it's called the Hawkeye State. It's called the Hawkeye State, and that's who the Iowa Hawkeyes. It's not the Iowa Cyclones, it's the Iowa Hawkeyes. So the Iowa Hawkeyes generally always win this, or more often than not, or they certainly cover more often than not in this Cy-Hawk Challenge. So that's where we're playing it. Whatever's happened yesterday probably happened tomorrow too. So that's the way we're going to do it. We'll take Iowa. Georgia State, North Carolina. North Carolina, bad loss last week versus Virginia Tech. We're just kind of taking that as a one-off deal. They just ran into an angry buzzsaw up there at Blacksburg. And we think that they're going to get well against the team that, to me, doesn't look very good. I mean, a team that lost 43-10 to Army. And it was like, well, what are they, 4-touchdown underdogs? I mean, is Army that good? I don't know. The line was almost a pick 'em. And they lost 43-10, Georgia State did. So I'm kind of thinking Georgia State's not very good. North Carolina got that. I think they'll find all of a sudden it's easy to move the ball when you don't have somebody sitting on you as a quarterback. Because that's what Virginia Tech did last weekend. They just sat on top of that good North Carolina quarterback every play. He was running for his life. All of a sudden now he gets to stand back there. I think he'll find all of a sudden, oh yeah, I remember how to do this. I can do this now. So we'll take the Carolina there. This may be another trap game. I think the smart money's on Washington, obviously, then therefore we're on Michigan because we're not smart. But it just looks too... Washington lost to an FCS team last weekend. How good could they be? I know some of those FCS teams are really good. And if you rip them out of their environment and have them just play one game, they probably don't have the depth to go through a whole season at the top level, but you have them play one game. Yeah, these teams can really give some of these bigger schools some trouble. See how many years ago was that? 15 years ago that Appy State came up to the big house and beat Michigan. I still find that funny, but just kind of think, an 8 o'clock game up there at Michigan, and they had a nice win to open up the season, and they're feeling good about themselves, and this is a big game for Michigan. The coach is on the hot seat. This is a really big game here for Michigan. I know Washington wants to bounce off that loss to Montana, but we're just going to take a shot. This is a feel thing. I have no real... I can't enunciate anything to you other than this is just a feel thing. So, Michigan. San Diego State, Arizona. San Diego State, they're always a pretty good team. They generally run the ball more than throw the ball. Arizona's bad. That's a bad team out there. They were bad last year. I don't see any reason why they're going to be better this year. So we'll take a shot there late with San Diego State. And then the Holy War. The Holy War. These teams hate each other from what I've heard, which I think is kind of cool. There's nothing better in sports is when you got two real rivals that really, and I don't care if it's the hate or the respect hate, I've always been taught that the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry is we respect them, but we hate them. I respect Michigan, but I hate them. I'm not sure how that works. But then supposedly this would be we hate them and we hate them. We don't respect them and we hate them. So apparently that's how Utah and BYU see each other. Utah's had it on BYU in this series, particularly at BYU. It was something like they're 10-2 at Provo over the last 30 years or something. So we'll just say they'll do what they do. They'll go up the road there to Provo and beat them and cover the 7. That's it. I'll probably be out here tomorrow morning giving you NFL picks so we can check that box. It seems like baseball's going to fall by the wayside here just because there's just not enough time to do 3 sports at the same time. I just don't have enough time. So at any rate, hit the like button or at least view it. I mean, like I said, I'm getting to the point here where 20 views per video, pretty soon the videos will just stop because there's no point to it. There's just no point. I can use my time more efficiently doing other things. Thanks, and we appreciate who is here, and we'll talk to you later.